Hello, time for another Man in Gray book review. Today's book is Who the Hell is Ayn Rand and What Are Her Theories All About by Simon LeMieux, published by Bowden in Brazil in 2023. It's 113 pages. This is part of a book series called Who the Hell Is, which gives many biographies of artists, philosophers, psychologists, psychiatrists, and it also explains some of their theories. So it's sort of an introduction to those people. Ayn Rand was a novelist and philosopher who was born in Russia in 1905 and died in the United States in 1982. She's best known for a couple of novels, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, and for promoting a philosophy she called objectivism. Rand was born into a fairly well to do Jewish family in Russia, but her father lost everything when the Bolsheviks took over the country and nationalized all the businesses. And this led to a lifelong hatred of communism and socialism on the part of Rand. The family eventually migrated to the United States in the 1920s, and Rand went to Hollywood, where she got jobs writing scripts for silent movies, and eventually she became a worked as a costume designer and worked in the costume department of a studio. But then, when her novel, The Fountainhead, became a surprise bestseller, she gave all that up and concentrated the rest of her career on writing and giving speeches. The idea of objectivism is basically a type of libertarianism. She argued that individuals should compete in a free marketplace. She was a laissez-faire capitalist. She thought the only thing the government should do was defend the country from invasion and maintain a police force to prevent criminals from taking people's property. And that was about it. Everything else should be left to the free market. She certainly didn't believe in any kind of social safety net. She was against Social Security and welfare programs, food stamps, and Medicare and Medicaid. Although, as the author points out, she was somewhat hypocritical about this because in her later years, when her health declined because of her heavy smoking and her medical bills began to mount, she eventually signed up for Medicare, something that she was actually against. And also, she was always promoting the idea of individuality and the importance of being self-confident and having individual ideas, but she didn't practice that in her real life because she surrounded herself with sycophants. And if anyone disagreed with her, even on minor points of her philosophy, she tended to ostracize them. People that were friends of hers for years, she would banish if she felt that they were not sufficiently loyal to her ideas. And as the author points out, there's actually two different Ayn Rand organizations now. And they're both kind of at war with one another. So even in death, she's a very polarizing figure, even among her supporters. As a novelist, most critics kind of dismissed her novels as being kind of second rate. For one thing, they're incredibly long, especially Atlas Shrugged, which is like 1,000 pages long. And it contains a speech that runs on for 60 pages. Now, any kind of creative writing teacher will tell you you're not supposed to write speeches that go on that long. And really, the novels are just a mouthpiece for her ideas. It's a way to promote her ideas, much like George Bernard Shaw's plays were largely just an excuse for him to promote his socialist agenda. In the same way, Rand's novels are just ideas for promoting her right-wing libertarian philosophy. I've read a couple of her novels, and I found them to be rather boring because the heroes, because they're so self-confident, because they lack empathy for others, and they don't have any self-doubt, they're really boring characters. And the villains are equally shallow in their motivation. I mean, they're just they're set up as straw men, for Rand to knock down in the novels. So they're not very good as novels, but they are popular with people that believe in her theories. She's always had kind of a cult following among libertarians and the right. Alan Greenspan was one of her friends, the guy who later became an important economic advisor to several Republican presidents. And even today, there's a number of conservative politicians and talk show hosts who sing the praises of Rand's books and her ideas. One of the things that the author points out here is that it's really hard to see how her kind of philosophy would play out in the real world. If you had, for example, the assumption that Rand makes is that everyone can succeed if they try hard enough and if they have enough creativity and smarts and motivation and self-confidence. But of course, in during much of Rand's life, if you were black, you didn't have those kind of opportunities. You were shut off from those. And it was really only when the government stepped in and guaranteed things like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act that black people began to have the kind of uh, equal opportunities that whites have always had. And she really doesn't go into that. It should be pointed out, too, that Rand is not firmly into either. She didn't identify with any political party. In some ways, her ideas are against what a lot of conservatives believe. She was an atheist who had scorn for religion. She regarded religion as a way of, again, a kind of collectivism that held people down and denied their individuality. She was also very much a supporter of abortion rights and contraceptive rights and so forth. She thought that people that were pushing, religious agenda was suppressing women. And so, in some ways, she was a liberal, and in other ways, she was very much a conservative. And so, she didn't really fit into either camp. Fascinating character. Not a particularly great writer, but somebody that had some interesting ideas that still hold a lot of sway among certain groups of people. So, if you're interested in Ayn Rand, if you've never read any of her things, before you read them, you might want to read this book. It gives you a little bit of background into her philosophy and her thinking, and it sketches out briefly some of her novels. The book is "Who the Hell is Ayn Rand?" Ayn Rand, and what were her theory? What are her theories all about? And the author is Simon LeMieux. This has been another Man in Gray book review. Thanks for watching.